j'espère que ça va bien. Bienvenue encore une fois sur un nouveau vidéo, un nouveau épisode de le podcast Héros, malgré l'épilepsie. Aujourd'hui, on a un invité vraiment spécial qui est en Arizona en ce moment. Donc, elle est de très très loin, mais c'est quelqu'un de très très significatif dans la communauté épileptique. Donc, c'était très important pour moi de la recevoir sur le podcast. Vidéo d'aujourd'hui, l'épisode d'aujourd'hui va être fait en anglais. So, Jess, I'm so excited to have you on this podcast because honestly, you are such a pillar of the epilepsy community. You were one of the first people that I was referred to when I had Riggins that was epileptic. So it's just so important for me to have you on here. I think that you have a lot of hats. Also, you wear a lot of hats, a lot of roles in the epilepsy community, and I think that everyone would just be so on this, everyone would just agree to say that you are so important to all of us. So it's really an honor to have you on here. I'm so thankful. I know that, this might be hard for you, knowing that, Rosie left a few weeks back. So I'm just so happy that you accepted and that you are here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That was so thoughtful of you. I really appreciate that. I definitely have had quite the experience with this, unfortunately. So
Yes.
yeah.
And I want, we're going to talk about the whole journey, Rosie's whole journey, but I do want you to take a few minutes to just introduce yourself as Jess, as, you're a mom, you're a single mom of 3 kids, I'm thinking. So just, we want to hear a little bit about your story and how it led to epilepsy, but we will get back to the whole epilepsy journey and epilepsy story, but, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Jessica, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have traveled quite a bit in the meantime, but now currently reside in Arizona. And I, like you said, I'm a woman of many hats. I'm a single mother. I took care of Rosie for 8 years. She was epileptic 7.5 of those years. So it definitely was a long journey. And aside from that, I'm going to school. I'm a student as well in the veterinary field. So I'm hoping to continue my knowledge in that field as well in neurology. So yeah.
Wow. So right now you're taking the vet, like the med vet, I'm guessing. I'm not sure what it's called in Arizona, but I'm guessing it's like med vet. And are you specialized in neurology right now, or is that like further on?
That's further on. Right now I'm getting my degree in veterinary nursing. So basically veterinary technician in the States is what it's called. And then from there I'll move into specialty, which will be in neurology. So hopefully specialty in epilepsy.
Wow. And was that your goal from the beginning when you started this course, or did you get into this course because of Rosie?
I actually got into this course because of Rosie. I've always loved animals, and I've always found that animals were a huge passion of mine. I have worked in pet stores and things of that nature, so it's always been within my realm of knowledge.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I decided about 3 or 4 years ago that I really got very intrigued with all the research of surrounding epilepsy. Once Rosie started having major seizures, I started researching more, and then I realized, this is super interesting. And then I started my page online. So just hearing other people's stories, it really just gave me kind of a passion for learning more and wanting to help more dogs like her, and kind of just progress my own knowledge in the sense of just being able to help her. So that's mostly what triggered it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And what is it? Because I'm guessing it's distant school and part-time, since you are a mom. Do you work I'm guessing that you work also to between your classes or between your courses. So how does that work? Is it distant work? Is it how does that end up?
It is distant at the moment. I am working full time, and then I come home, do the kiddos routine with their homework and everything, and then at nighttime I turn into student mode, and then I'm taking right now full-time classes, so 5 classes at night, and then my semesters are about 3 months long. So in those intervals I get a couple weeks of a break, and then I go right back into it. So
Oh my gosh. So that is a huge workload. I mean,
It
working
is.
full time in school, full time single mom, like that is something.
It
That is
is.
something.
It definitely
My
is.
gosh. I don't know how you do it.
Thank you. Sometimes I don't
You're
either, but
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, that's fun. So, so you are based in Arizona, and I mean, how does where did you get Rosie? How did your guys' journey first start? You and Rosie's.
Yeah, so at the time I lived in Oregon, a friend of mine who I worked with on Mount Hood said, my dog just had puppies and there's 9 of them, and I know how much you love animals, and there's this one dog in particular that I think you would just really click with. And I was like, I'm not really trying to have a dog. I'm traveling a lot. I don't really have, the time, but I'll come take a look. And I went to his house, and there she was, just sitting under a baby stroller. And I was like,
Oh,
I fell in love. I was like, she's the cutest dog I've ever seen. And out of all the puppies, she was the only one with a little red nose. So they named her Rosie. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to come back in a few weeks and just kind of make sure that this is, think on it, make sure this is what I really want to do, because I know it's a huge commitment. And then I ended up going back, and she came home with me, and the rest is history. So, yeah.
oh my gosh, that is adorable. What a cute
Yeah.
story. What a cute
Yeah.
way to get a dog. Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, and he was
So
right. We
you
definitely clicked. So,
Yeah. Oh, that is so cute. That's such a cool story though.
thank you.
And do you know, like, was she part of a breeder's litter? Was she, because she was a golden doodle, or was she a doodle?
She was a Labradoodle.
Okay.
So she was not part of a planned litter. I apologize. Sorry, I got my kiddo out here too. So, um,
That's okay.
so no, she was not planned. This was a total accident. They actually had a spay appointment for their dog the following week, but somehow, some way, miracles happen, and she just so happened to be born. And yep, she ended up with me.
Oh.
So she traveled with me a lot, a whole lot. I ended up taking her everywhere with me, so we would just travel all the time and go snowboard together. She would chase me on my snowboard, and yeah, she was a
Oh
really good dog.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fun. That's cute though.
Yeah.
That's what a coincidence that, they had the vet, the vet appointment, and then that just happened. That's
Yeah, it was
funny.
very like fate like it was meant to be kind of thing, because yeah, they definitely weren't planning on having puppies, but it just so happened to be, right place, right time for all
Oh,
the people involved that got the puppies, so it worked out great.
oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So,
Yeah.
explain to us, when did it start? Because I really want to hear you on how it happens and how it goes on and it's treated in the US, because I do know how it's treated here because we have been through that.
Right.
But I really I'm so intrigued to see if it's the same um steps that you guys take, if the how the vet deals with canine epilepsy, and how it all starts, how what happens.
Yeah. So, about 6 months old, I took her to a dog park. I was really excited for her to go socialize. She had already had all her shots. So I thought it'd be a great time to start introducing her to other animals. And when we got to the dog park, they have a double gate. So you come into the one gate, shut it, and then you go in. I was like sitting there talking, and I was like, "Can she hear me?" And then it was like, overheating, overheating. I was like, "No."
Where you left us, you were saying that you got to the dog park, and then there was a double gate, so you got into the first gate, and then we lost you to heat.
Yes. So I got into the first gate, and then I started noticing Rosie like foaming at the mouth. And my first thought was, okay, she ate something on the way in. Maybe she like picked something up off the ground. What is happening? And then right after that, I was like, well, that was weird. It only lasted about 30 seconds. Never really thought anything else of it. And then about 3 months later, I was taking her for a walk, and there was a St. Bernard dog that wanted to come over and say hello. And as the dog was approaching, she started convulsing. And that's when I knew and thought back to the other moment. I was like, okay, that was like a seizure or something else bigger than that. I'm not sure what's happening, but it seems like something is definitely wrong. So I took her to the vet,
And did
and the
you
vet.
at
Mhm.
this moment, did you know that dogs could have seizures?
No, I had no clue. I had a friend growing up who had them, but I was so young at the time I didn't really comprehend like what that was or what that meant.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that that was even something animals were capable of.
Okay, okay, yeah, because this is where like you weren't studying this and at that moment. So when she foamed in the dog park, you probably thought, oh, she ate a whatever frog or whatever.
Yeah, I
But
had
then
no clue. Yeah.
yeah, but then when it happened with the Saint Bernard, like was that like a full on seizure, like full body convulsion or
Yes, it was. She fell to the floor. She was convulsing. Similar situation of the foaming at the mouth. She was vocalizing a lot, so yelping. And I was so scared. I had never handled or even seen a seizure in real time before, so I didn't know
yeah,
exactly like what to do. So as soon as she came out of it, I picked her up and carried her home because I wasn't sure what was happening.
yeah.
I later learned you're not supposed to move them, but at the
Yes.
time, that was my first instinct was to pick her up and move her. After that situation, I took her to the vet, and the vet said, maybe this was a seizure. We're not sure because, there was no video or anything to like, I had no idea how to even describe what I saw at the
Yeah.
time. So we didn't quite rule it as epilepsy yet. We did test her for a few different like tick-borne illnesses and fleas and
Yes.
like things of that nature just to kind of rule out like, oh, maybe she was just sick from something. But everything came back totally normal. And then maybe not even a month later, I was sitting in my bedroom and I had just had a baby. And I'm sitting there with my newborn, and all of a sudden, I hear the noise of everybody who has a dog with seizure knows the noise of like,
Yeah.
oh, my dog's having a seizure. At the time I didn't know the noise, but I had jumped up in a panic like what is the going on, and I looked over and saw her full on convulsing, and I was
Oh my gosh.
petrified. I was so scared. I had no clue what to do. I was like, I don't even know what to do right now. Is she going to bite me? Like what do I do?
Yes.
um After that, the vet definitely ruled epilepsy as a consideration for her, just because there had been three different situations of something like that happening. And
Yes.
all of the testing came back normal. So they said, this is very likely to be epilepsy at this point. And that was when she was about 1 years old. And that had continued all the way throughout the rest of her remaining life.
And what did you guys at that point, did you guys give her medication? Did the vet put her on any medication or not at that point?
So the vet recommended medication. I at the time was taking a more holistic approach.
Okay.
I wasn't really, understanding like what the medication would entail. Like I knew it would be a lifelong decision. So I at first said, let's wait on the medication. Let's try other routes and means. So one of the things that I had looked up, this is kind of where my passion came from, is I started researching and I started looking up, okay, what causes this? What can make this happen? What is going on here? And
Yeah.
honestly, I could not find much. There was very,
Okay.
very little online about any of this. So,
Yeah. I think it well, I mean now we are going back around 8 years, right? Because
right.
this is about 8 years back. I feel like there was nothing at all.
Not at all.
In the States, I feel like right now you guys are so ahead of us with all the research. So I feel like if I were to think back 8 years back in Canada, in Quebec, more particularly, I don't even think that there was any research on canine epilepsy. So, the fact that you're saying that there was nothing or almost nothing on that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, there
So
wasn't much at all.
so what did you do at this point? Like, so you did research, didn't find much. Did you go back to the vet and say, "Well, let's try meds"? Like, when did that come up? Because
So, yeah.
did she get more seizures after that, you know?
Oh, she did. Yes. So the seizures kept continuing. And one of the things in my research that I found was hormones play a major role in human epilepsy. So that was a consideration to me because I said, she's a very young dog. She's just coming into adulthood in her sense. So I said, what if I get her spayed first? See if I can
Okay.
kind of control the hormones and see if that makes any kind of difference in terms of the seizures. So that was my main goal first was, okay, I'm going to get her spayed, see if that helps, and then maybe consider medications. So I got her spayed. Within a week of getting her spayed, she had one of the worst seizures to this day that I've ever seen.
Oh my
So
gosh.
unfortunately, that did not work. Like I had hoped. I hoped, okay, we got her spayed. This is it. This is going to be the hurrah that we've been waiting for, and we can get back to
Yeah.
normal. And it did not happen that way at all. It actually somewhat made it worse, to be honest.
Oh my.
Yes. So at that point, the vet said, look, this isn't going to get better. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is what her life is going to be like. I need you to heavily consider medication at this point. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take your word for it. I trust you. I had a very good relationship with my vet at the time, and I said, I think, your professional opinion matters, and I'm going to do it. So we started out with Keppra,
Okay.
and she'd take it twice a day. For a few months, we saw a little bit of improvement, but then it was right back to the seizures. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And how many seizures did she have in total? Like, do you remember how the amount?
Around that time, there had been about 20 to 30 seizures that I had witnessed.
Oh
That's not to
my.
say,
Wow.
yeah, there was quite a few. In between the time of spay and the medication starting, there was almost weekly we were experiencing the seizures. So that's what the big deciding factor was okay, this is definitely progressing and getting worse. So
Yeah.
medication is a necessary step at this point. Otherwise, what else am I going to do? So
Yes, yes. And I mean, they were close up also because, she was having them like weekly, I'm guessing, if she was having this much.
oh yes, they were very consistent, and I noticed from the start to about that time frame they had progressed. So the duration was longer. Just the symptoms of what she was having before, during, and after were much longer. So yeah, there was quite a bit of signs that okay, medication is probably our only step that we and chance that we have to save her, basically.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So you started on Keppra, and I'm intrigued by this because you said Keppra was 2 times a day, but when we give Keppra, it's 3 times a day. So is this another, like, so was Keppra, why were you giving it 2 times a day?
So there's two different forms of Keppra. There's regular Keppra and then there's extended release. Extended release is basically a form of Keppra that has a coating around it, around the tablet, that lasts
Okay.
longer in their system and slow releases over time. So instead of giving it, and because Keppra, once it's in the system, it exits the system as well. It's not one of those medications that remain in the system for long periods of time.
Okay.
So in order to stretch out basically the dosages, we did the extended release version. That way we didn't have to give it as often, basically. So
Okay. And did that work? You said you did see, that she was getting better a few months after that, but then it started coming back. So at that point, what did you do?
at that point, I told her that, they're coming back. They're definitely not getting better. We did see a little bit longer stretches in between, but nothing significant enough that was like, okay, this is working great.
Okay.
So we at that time added phenobarbital to our
Yes.
medication route. So now we were on two medications, both twice a day, morning and night. And that is the first time I saw a significant change in the seizure
Okay.
activity. Yeah.
Wow. And was when you added the pheno, did your vet consider taking away the Keppra, or was she just keeping both of those meds because we were seeing something that was somewhat better?
Right. Yeah, I think people have the option in terms of, let's take her off this and add this one instead. Since I had noticed a slight improvement, I wanted to remain on that cycle just because with epileptic dogs, any change at all can trigger more seizures. So I just wanted to remain that in her system since her body at that point had been on it for quite a few months. So
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that, that I wasn't making too many drastic changes at once. And then once we added the phenobarbital, I don't know if it was just the magic combination for her, but the two medications together had significantly improved her seizures. She would go months at a time at that point, whereas before it was, every week, every other week. So she was getting much longer stretches in between, which was great, but the activity was still there. So.
Okay, so you were getting a few months between seizures, so that was good. And I mean, at this point, were you consulting a neurologist or were you just with your general vet?
I was just with my general vet. I had considered a neurologist, but because me and my vet had such a good working relationship, and because she was really, intrigued by Rosie and had known her situation for so long, that I just wanted to remain consistent for her. Going to the vet is another change or a stressor that can trigger seizures in dogs. So I was
Yeah.
just more so worried about introducing her to another clinic that was new, another vet that was new. I just wanted to try to remain like as consistent as possible for her. And since she was making progress for us, I didn't find it necessary at that time to really seek a neurologist.
Exactly. Okay, that's yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you have like that bond with your vet, I mean, the whole epilepsy journey is stressful enough. You don't want to, cause anything else if it's not necessary. So I get that for sure.
Right.
And so how did it so you were having a few months between seizures, so that's great. And then how did it go upon so how many years was that working? Because I mean, we're talking about an 8 year stretch. Rosie had epilepsy, was an epileptic dog for about 7 to 8 years, which is huge. So how did that turn out?
Yeah, so that first year, there was only those two incidences. From year one to about year three, when I got her spayed, that was the significant, like, weekly, out of control aspect of it. Once we utilized the phenobarbital and kept her together around age 3, from age 3 to 5, she did really well. It was only every couple months she was having a seizure. We considered that controlled. Me and
Yes.
her considered that controlled. So we did fairly well for a long time. She would go to her every 6 months appointment. We would check in. There was no significant changes until she turned about 5.
Okay.
Yeah, when she hit 5 years old, I'm not sure if it was an age factor, a change of lifestyle factor, because we had moved here to Arizona in that time frame. We were in Oregon previously. So I'm not exactly sure, no one can ever be certain what causes it to progress the way it does,
Yeah.
but at that age, we noticed a huge progression change. The medication was no longer working. We were experienced breakthrough seizures constantly.
Oh
And
boy.
not only that, but this is the period of time where cluster seizures started becoming, they used to be just one or two seizures a day, and then it turned into 20 to 40 seizures a day. It was like a significant, I'm not sure
Of
how, but it was a significant change for her. So we
and she
changed
was
her
getting
medication. Mhm.
and she was getting these seizures, like 30 to 40 seizures a day, full on body seizures?
Oh yes, like back to back to back. It was horrific. It went from, like, the first cluster was about age 4, and she had one in the morning, and I didn't even know clusters were an option. I didn't even know that was a possibility. I thought, oh,
Okay.
this is the worst of it. They have the seizures. But then the second one happened that first day, and I said, oh my gosh, she just had two in one day. Like, that's not good. That's way
No.
worse. So yeah, that's when we upped her medication. But after that, she was having clusters that just were extremely progressed. She would go into a seizure. She would come out of it for maybe 30 seconds, another seizure, another seizure, another seizure. And anyone who's experienced dogs with seizures knows that you can't really move them. You can't really do much while they're convulsing. So it was really
Yes.
difficult in those moments because you could get bit. You don't want to go
Yeah.
near them and try to pick them up as they're convulsing to get them to the vet. So one of the times that she had that many, her vet actually is the sweetest human being in the world, drove to my home to help me with 3 nurses to get her to the ER, because it was impossible. There was nothing I could do. And she essentially, not to be horrific, but she was essentially dying in front of me. So
Yeah.
that's when I recognize, like, okay, this is very bad. Should I consider quality of life at this time?
Okay, you
And
did. Okay,
I did.
wow. And
Yeah,
I
around
mean,
that
I
time frame,
do
that was a big discussion.
And I mean, I do have to mention that you had kids around while this
Oh,
was going
yes.
on. So
Yes.
because I know that we've had this conversation before, but I really want us to have it again for anyone listening, because when I was pregnant, for Colton, it was a big, big stress, to have Riggins, having his epilepsy, and then how did we manage? And I do remember us having this conversation, and you mentioned that you taught your kids a safe word.
Yes.
So
So anytime, yeah.
tell me about that. Yeah.
So anytime, because I had two kids under the age of 2 at the time when the cluster seizures started becoming very bad. And even in general, with the single seizures, I had always taught my daughter before my son was born a safe spot. I would say, okay, listen, and I tried to, dumb it down as much as I could to be age appropriate. I said, listen, Rosie's sick. Sometimes her brain does funny things and it makes her not feel well. When that happens, mommy's going to tell you, go to your safe spot, and you're going to go in your room and shut the door, and you stay in your safe spot until mommy comes back. And that was something we would practice first. Before she would even have seizures, we would practice it, just to be sure that in those actual emergency moments, they knew what to do. And they were
Yes.
so little. They were, 2 years old and 1 years old at the time. So that was a hard thing to teach very young children, but we were very consistent, and it worked beautifully because anyone who has a dog with seizures knows, like, the severity of it and how traumatic it can be for us as adults, let alone a child
Yes.
seeing that. So
Yes. Oh my
I tried
gosh.
to get them out of the room as soon as possible, and a lot of the times I was alone. 99% of the time it was just me handling the situation. So that was a huge factor of, like, being able to help Rosie at the same time as helping the babies, and, like, trying to manage both at the same time because they're so little. And then, not to mention, like, dogs who have seizures or are actively seizing have a lot of struggles with noise, and things like that can trigger
Yes.
more. So having
Yes.
babies screaming and stuff like that in the background was, like, beyond stressful in those heavy moments. So that
Yeah.
was a big thing I've taught my kids. That was a helpful tool that, I don't know what made me think of it. I just knew, like, you guys have to be out of this situation, but I can't leave her alone. Like Rosie, I
Yes.
can't leave her alone. So what do I do?
Oh my
So
gosh. That is such a, and your kids were really good to actually go upon that. But I mean, I think that you were so good in reinforcing it beforehand, and when it wasn't actually a while a seizure was happening, I think that's just the best way to go with it. So
right.
once the clustered seizures had started, they were awful. What happened next? Did you change medication? Did you go see a neurologist? Like, what was the next step for that at that moment?
Right. So we did up her medication, which to me made the biggest impact. Because we saw a good improvement with that, I didn't seek a neurologist at that time either, because we were able to get 6 months of a stretch from changing the dosage, which was almost unheard of for her. That was, like, the most miracle situation we could have ever experienced, because normally she was having them so often. So having that long stretch, it almost gave me, like, a false sense of hope. Like, okay, that's it. We figured it out. We got the magic dose. Like, we're good to go now. Like, she's going to live normally, and she hasn't had a seizure in so long. And then right around the 6 month mark, I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night, I heard the noise, and I was like, no way. Like, not again, no way. And it's weird, because you would think after 8 years of doing something, like, you would almost become, like, comfortable,
Used to
not
it?
comfortable, used to it. Yeah, used to
Yeah.
it. But that was not the case. It almost felt like the first one all over again. Like,
Oh
what do
my
I
god.
do? Oh my gosh, the panic, like, takes over you. And at that period of time, I said, you know what? I need to go to school, or, like, figure something out to help her. I need to research this in a more productive way that will actually help her, because my dog is so young and she's so smart and full of life. And I know aside from the seizures, she has so much potential. And I just
Yes.
couldn't bear the thought of like, okay, she's just gonna die from this. Like, I was never gonna let that happen under my
Yeah.
watch. I just did whatever I possibly could at that point in my life to make sure she was gonna be okay, and like at least get a few more years, since we are already considered quality of life. I just didn't want at that time for it to be time. So
Yeah.
that's when I started schooling.
That's when you started schooling at that point. And how old was she at this point? Like 6?
She was about 6, yes.
Yeah, she was about 6 in that time frame. And
Hmm.
then so you started school, you upped that dosage. She had a 6 months stretch. And then did the stretch between seizures kept being like significant, like 6 months?
Yeah.
So did it continue that way?
Yeah, we actually had a 2-year break. So
Wow.
after that 6-month breakthrough, I had already started school. I had started my Instagram page and was communicating with other people within the community to try to get answers. And we had gone 2 years without a seizure. And again, that false sense of hope of like, wow, it's over with, it's done, this is it, we did it. And now, it's been a year. Oh my gosh, now it's been a year and a half. And it was just
Wow.
the most incredible feeling from watching this dog basically on her deathbed to go to 2 years seizure free, when just 2 years prior to that we were considering quality of life.
Yes.
It was the most incredible thing. And within those 2 years she got to live like the most beautiful memories with me. We got to do so many different things together, and I just got to feel like, okay, you get to be a normal dog now and like do the things that I've always wanted you to be able to do. And so that was amazing, and I was so grateful for that time frame.
Wow. So she did
Yeah.
that her 2 year gap was after that 6 months stretch. All right.
Yes.
So, and when you were saying that she was getting like good amount of stretch between seizures, did you realize that, or did you recognize that the seizures were not as bad? Were they not as long? Or were they similar? Were they always kind of, as strong?
Yeah, they were always as strong. She would have back to back to back. When she did have seizures, they were bad. Like,
Yeah.
worst case scenario, bad. But during like the long stretches, you would never even know she's sick. You would have no clue. So,
That's crazy. And did
mhm.
you get emergency meds at some point? Like, was your vet able to give you emergency meds to get those clusters to stop and get her to the ER? Like, how
Yes.
did that work out?
Around the time I got her spayed, so probably around like 3 years old, we were given midazolam and diazepam.
Okay.
And I remember the very first time I had to use my Dazzlam. It's an intranasal medication, so you have to basically put it up their nose as they're actively seizing to try to stop the seizure.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
remember going through maybe 2 or 3 vials of it, like, I can't get this right. I can't aim it right. She's moving. I don't know how to do this. And I was panicking. But over time, once I figured it out, I think it did significantly help the active seizure stop.
Okay.
Um, but in terms of more like, long term within that time frame, so like that would stop the seizure from happening. But then because she clustered so bad, she would have more. It wouldn't stop them from coming, but it would stop the one that was happening at the time.
So you were able at that point to just have it stop, get her in the car, get her to the ER, and I
Right.
mean, even if she would be
Exactly.
seizing, like it's at least you would be able to get her in the car and
Right.
transport her.
Right. But I
Okay.
will say, because of the type of medication my Dazzlam is, it's a controlled substance here in the US, and it's very difficult to get the amount that you need. So I would only be given a couple vials. And like I said, if I mess those vials up, that's it. I don't have any
Yeah.
more. I can't get any more. So it was a tricky situation in terms of like that period of time I told you when her vet physically came to get her, because I
Yeah.
had already used all 3 vials and I was out, and
Oh
she was
boy.
still seizing horrifically. So I said, I don't know what else to do. I've given her all the medications, and when she would have seizures like that, we were instructed to give her extra doses of her normal medications
Oh,
as
okay.
well, to try to hold off more long term the seizures from coming. So the midazolam was to stop them immediately, and then the additional Keppra and phenobarbital were to stop them over the next few hours, if that makes sense. So
Yes,
that was
yes.
kind of our protocol, and that worked pretty well, to be honest. That was a fairly well routine for us.
Okay. Okay, wow. That's huge. My gosh, I think that that's a big a big example of clustered seizures. Because I think
Yes.
people have, I mean, I do know of dogs that do have the clustered, but they might have like 2, 3, or 4, but to have 30 to 40 seizures, and those are full on body seizures, they're not partial seizures, they're just, general full body, that is so intense. I can't even
It was
imagine how hard
significant.
that is.
It was very
Wow.
significant. Honestly, her vet said, given the severity, we've never seen a dog make it out of these.
Okay.
Rosie was so strong, and she just had this like light in her eyes that I knew, like, she's not giving up. Like, keep trying. She's not giving up. I can tell. Like, we just had this bond where I just felt like, it sounds bizarre, but like I knew my dog, and I could just tell like she's fighting and she wants to be here. Like, you need to do something for me. Like, please help. So there were maybe 3 or 4 incidences of us having to go to the ER. And within all of those situations, the vets were insanely amazing. They done everything they possibly could, and it worked, whatever they did. And that was kind of my incentive too. Like, I want to go help dogs like this. I want
Yeah.
to go be the reason that somebody gets to bring their pet home who they love, and they don't have to cry tonight because they get help that they need.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Oh,
that
that's
was a big
really
factor.
that's really sweet. I
Right.
do wanna ask you about this. Oh wait, it's gonna lag. But I'm holding the book up right now. Your tracking canine epilepsy journal.
Hmm.
I do want to hear you, because this is not the only book that you have written.
Right.
At what point did you make this book? You have a few other books that tell Rosie's story on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I first made my first book, it was a children's book. I had just had a baby, and I, as a parent, was trying to find, sorry,
That's
I was
okay.
I was trying to find a book that had more educational aspect to it, in the sense of like the states and like the different places that you can go. I just couldn't find anything that I really liked. And I thought, like, what would be cuter than putting Rosie in the book and sharing like her experiences, and then I could share it with my kids. It was more so for my own kids, to be honest, but it really kind of took off at first. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll write the next book, because we were in Oregon first. And then I said, now we're in Arizona. Maybe I could just write another one about Arizona. That would be so fun. Since I was a stay-at-home mom, it was just more so of like a fun outlet for me to keep busy and like share my dog's story and just have fun. And I, at the time, had already started my Instagram page about canine epilepsy. So I had incorporated a couple of the dogs that I had been, like really
Yes.
good friends with their parents. I had incorporated them into the book just for fun. And that's how it started. And then I realized at a certain point, I was like, I'm just in my notes app trying to track all these seizures, and it's getting so confusing. And then what if I delete it by accident? And I'm like, I need like a concrete way to really like track this. And I said, you know what? I've already made a few books. I'm like, I'm just going to it was for myself at first. I said, I'm going to make myself a little book to publish so I can have like a physical copy of like almost like a baby book, but for your dog,
Yes.
like her
Yes.
paw print, all her information, all the different things. So that's how it started out. And then I had told a couple friends and they said, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I want one. I want one." And I said, "Well, if I'm going to make this, I want your dogs to be in it too. Like,
Yes.
it's not just about my dog. This is about all the dogs." So I said it would be incredible to have like all your dogs' pictures in it, and like that
Yeah.
escalated from like 4 or 5 dogs to about like 300 dogs.
Yes, because
So,
there are so many dogs
yes.
on this book. I'm holding it up. I'm just hoping that the recording will work so that we can actually show it. But there's this about me, and all there's so many nice pictures of so many dogs, and each chapter has a dog image. So that
Yeah.
is it's so great. We got ours when we were, dealing with all of this with Riggins, and it just helped so much because when we would get him babysat, we would just send him over with his journal. So we would just send it over, and there's all of the information, what to do, and if they needed to call the vet, like what the numbers were, and the emergency plan. I love the page where we see the emergency plan, and what to do, because I mean it is hard, and we had a hard time with people wanting to babysit him because they were just so scared, and they were just so unsure of what they had to do. So this journal helped us because it helped everyone around us, basically, because I mean it was just like a guide, like a guide to babysit Riggins. So
Yeah.
that was really fun, and I know that a lot of people got it because I mean you can still get it on Amazon right now, right?
You can, yeah. And that was actually the initial intention behind it was like, okay, I need a way to log the seizures. I need a way to like log the vet visits. And then one night I was looking through my kiddo's baby book and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so useful in that book that I'm making for Rosie. I was like, oh, it'd be useful if I had all her information in there and like spots to put like how old she is, what breed she is, and just it became more of a fun project at that point. And then after starting to get some of the photos in of other dogs and getting their ideas coming through, I realized to myself, I'm like, every time that someone has to watch her, I have to write this long list of like,
Yes.
this is what a seizure is. This is what to do. These are the medications to give her. Like, this is the plan of an emergency. This is what to call. Like, and I was just so tired of writing it out that I was like, why don't I just put it in this book and just give the person the book? And then they can
Yes.
look at it and it'll be right there. I don't have to stress about it. It's all the information is at their hand. Like they can just turn to the page if they need something and like be like, okay, this is what to do. So
Yes.
it kind of became like a log slash like emergency plan slash like fun momentum, like something
Yeah.
to kind of like just have of your pet. And then like the microchip area in there was big because I was like, there have been many times where I'd go to the vet and they would ask me that. And I'm like, I just want all the information in one place. Like, I'm tired of the stacks of paper. I'm tired of like
Yes.
having to look through everything. I'm like, it'd be nice to just like have one thing and
Yeah.
feel
And that's
organized.
really and that's really what people use it for, and it's just great. Honestly, it's a great tool. And what how did you get that to like publish and then be on Amazon? Like was that like a certain company that you did the publishing with, so you don't have these copies at home and you're not the one who ships them out, right?
Right. No, I did this on my own. I just did it on a little design program app that was free. I made each page individually and then I put it all together. Amazon basically has like a publishing website through Amazon, and all you have to do is upload your book there and they will publish it for you on their site. There are
Wow.
requirements that it has to be, you can't copyright, you can't put certain information. You can't use certain images. Like, for instance, if I were to use a Disney image, that would be flagged because that's not something I own physically. So it has
Yes.
to be
Yes.
original. But there, once you get past the rules and regulations and everything, you can just upload it there. So that's what I did. And I did purchase an ISBN. So if you upload it through Amazon, they essentially own the rights to that book. But if
Yes.
you purchase an ISBN, that is giving your rights back to you. So Amazon is allowed to sell my book, but though the book itself is my design and it's my book. It's not theirs to distribute on their own or anything like that. So that was kind of
Wow.
like the safeguard.
Yes, yes, I get that. Wow, that's great. Well,
Right.
that is so cool that you got that idea. And honestly, we
Thank
love the
you.
book. We so with our portion of epilepsy awareness in Kamers Academy, we actually have a few clients that have this book that we shared
Aw.
with them, and they actually got that book. So, we're spreading it around Quebec here.
Thank you.
We're
I know.
trying, we're
I
trying.
just wanted to help people, honestly. Like, it's never been about the money. I literally make pennies off of each sale. It's never been about anything like that. It's always just been like, I just want to give people the tools that I've learned over the years that they might just be starting out on their journey and have no clue. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to make like a foundation for people that they could turn to, like, this is the steps that you need, triggers, this is what this is, this is what that is. Like, here's all the things that you should know up front to like help your journey be a little bit smoother than mine was.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So I wanna first off, I wanna thank you for your time, and I know that with the kids it's not easy. I do want to address one last thing before I let you go,
Sure.
because Rosie is not with us anymore,
Right.
sadly, and I would like to get a little bit of that, what happened about that, and the story about that. If you are fine talking about it, I know that it is so like it just happened, well, not like days ago, but I mean it is very fresh, so I
Right.
do understand if that is a hard thing to talk about, but I do like, I want, in this podcast, I want it to be, I want it to be the real facts. I want people to know like how it does sometimes end, and like Rosie was 8, so that is amazing because she did have a really long stretch, but I do think that the end of it is part of her story, and I think that it's very important to actually address that matter, and just to see how you dealt with it, and how you're dealing with it now, and how that came upon. So if you
Yeah,
would like to
no,
share.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's important because throughout my entire journey with her, one of the biggest questions I think me and probably everybody who has an epileptic dog faces is like, how is this going to end? Is it going to be a seizure? Is it going to be horrific? What's going to happen? All these questions arise, and it's a constant. Every time they have a seizure, you have these questions run through your mind. And I
Yes.
never knew what was going to happen. And I mean, even like you've had the same experience. So
Yeah.
it's a difficult experience to say the least. But Rosie was doing really well. She hadn't had a seizure in, I think, 2 months at the time, and she was doing great. At the time, though, there was a lot of stress factors in my life that I think contributed to it. I had moved out of my home, and she had been in that home for quite a while, so that was a big significant change for her. And then in addition to that, me and my long-term partner had split up, so that was another significant change that she was experiencing. He was no longer around. There was just a whole different atmosphere and lifestyle happening around her. And then in addition to that, there were two other dogs in the home. So I think in general, just the accumulation of stress and change and all the different things that were happening really just stressed her out. And, change is a big factor into seizures. So I think that overall was kind of the triggering factor behind it, if I had to guess.
Okay.
But yeah, during that day, everything was totally normal. We were fine. We woke up. She jumped on the bed. She was acting normal. There was no. Normally, when she would have a seizure, she would, before she would have one, she would kind of paw at me, and there was kind of signs of anxiety happening. This particular time, there was nothing, no sign. She was doing great. She just woke up like normal. And then about an hour had gone by. We were just sitting in the bedroom, and I heard the noise, and I looked over and I said, "Oh no." And in my mind, I had thought to myself, like, okay, like, there's been a lot of changes happening. This is pretty, expected. It's not unexpected for this to happen, but I had no idea that it was going to end the way it did.
Yeah.
So, like I said, she would have cluster seizures back to back. So that was the case. She was having cluster seizures back to back. And I remember I told you before, I noticed that look in her eye, like, Mama, there's hope. I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, I want this. That look was not there this time. She was just vacant almost. Like,
Okay.
Mom, I'm tired. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but there was almost a look to her like, this is it. And at a certain point, I kind of recognized that. I had given her all the extra medications, I'd given her the emergency medications, I called the vet. This had gone on for about 30 minutes to an hour, and I was on the phone with the vet every, 10 minutes, like, this is the update, do you want me to bring her? And they were saying, I think you should bring her in. And I was like, I can't do that. I just don't feel like she's there yet. I can't do that. Let me just try a little bit more. That
Yeah.
grief started taking over, and in the middle of her having a seizure, I had to run to the bathroom and just started vomiting because I knew in my heart, like, this is it. And
Yeah.
I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, there's no way that this is it. And I just kept rationalizing in my mind, like, what do I do here? What do I do? And it was really difficult because it was just me making the decision too. So I'm like, all this pressure is going to be on me now alone. And what if I make the wrong choice? I mean, she had a 2-year stretch after considering this last time. What do I do?
Yes. Yeah.
And she had at some point during that hit her face very hard on the floor and had like broken quite a bit of her teeth, and her mouth was just covered in blood. Her face was hurting her, I could tell. And as a newly single mother on top of that, I'm like, how am I going to afford to fix her mouth, to handle these seizures, to handle this medication? Like, is
Yeah.
the quality of life on both ends good? And I
Yeah.
said, I feel like I need to make a decision here. And I called her vet and I said, it's time. Like, I can't watch her suffer like this anymore. It's something that's going to continue. I don't have the funds or the means to take care of this dog on my own anymore, and she is physically in pain and
Yeah.
suffering. And she did give me this look like, Mom, I'm done. And I got her ready to go to the vet. I brought her into the living room. I was getting my bag and everything, and she dropped down and had a bunch more seizures. And
Oh boy.
she was in my arms, and her heart stopped beating, and I couldn't find a pulse. And I was like, oh my God, no, 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 no. Like, no, no, no. Like, I want to say goodbye to you first. Please don't do this, please. And I was just panicking and having one of those moments of like, no, this isn't it. This isn't it. Like, there's no way. And I couldn't feel a pulse. She stopped breathing. Everything just kind of happened at once. And she was just laying on me limp. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like, and in that moment I realized, like, okay, this is it. I need to accept this and try to figure out the best thing to do from this moment. So I took her to the vet and had her body cremated and was able to get a paw print and all the things. But it was not how I anticipated it ending, but I did at the least get to say goodbye to her and be the one to hold her. And
Yeah.
I feel like my biggest fear, honestly, as horrific as that sounds, and people watching are probably like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It was the most best situation possible because my biggest fear was always it's going to happen while I'm not home.
Oh yeah.
That was always my biggest fear, is like, I won't be with her. She'll be alone. This is going to happen and I'm not going to be there to help her through this. And I think my comfort moving forward from that was I was there with her. She knew she was loved. She knew that I was
Yeah.
trying my best. She knew that, like, her family was there for her and her kids surrounded her and her family and people she's known her whole life. So that was like a very big comforting factor. Like, I knew this was going to happen at some point. I didn't know how or when or what, but the fact that I got to be there with her in those moments was like, that just carried me through this whole process, was that I knew that I got to be there and her last moments weren't alone. So,
Wow. And I think that that's so important, and I think that one thing that you said during what you were explaining is that you held on to that one thing. I mean,
Mhm.
these situations are horrible. They are horrific. They're just not fair, and I think we can all agree on that. Anyone who has a dog with epilepsy knows that this is not something that is considered fair, to my
Right.
opinion. But I feel like you do have to hold on to those little things, like the fact that you were there, that you got to hold her. She knew that she was not alone. And, that
Right.
look that she gave you, she probably knew that this was the end, but she
She
did
did.
not. She was just, this is the end, but I'm with mom and it's going to be okay. And you got to keep going because you have those kiddos and you have all of this, that you need to keep on dealing with. So I think that was very healing for you and for her too, to have that moment. That is one hell of a story, though. I have to agree.
Something
And
else I would hope that people listening or take away from this too is it's not about the end. Like, I think so many people emphasize throughout the whole lives of their dogs with seizures, like, when is the end? What's going to happen? When is the end? What's going to take place? And I think one of my biggest factors that I've always kept in my mind throughout my whole time with Rosie is like, today matters. She's here
yeah,
with me. We're together. We get to do all these things. No matter when that time comes or how it comes, I want to make now with her while she's here a good experience and give her the best I got and do the things she wants to do and, just be a good person for my dog. And
yeah,
I don't want people to hear that story and get discouraged and say, oh, maybe we should just put him down before it gets to that point. No, quite the opposite. I think you should embrace all the time that you do have and just, be grateful for that and just love them and give them the best you can while they're here because the inevitable will always come. And regardless of like how it happens, that doesn't matter. What
yeah,
matters is the time you spent together while that wasn't happening. So
yeah,
I get to reflect and I'm like, we've gone to the lake, we've gone swimming, we've climbed mountains together, we've gone snowboarding down huge mountains together, we've traveled the world, we've done so many different things together. And those are the memories that I reflect on. Like, okay, she had a great life, like an
yeah.
amazing life, more so than some people, like she's
Yes,
done a
I
lot.
agree.
I think that's the biggest takeaway is like, does epilepsy suck? Like, absolutely. Is it horrible and horrific and mentally, financially, physically draining? 100%. But you can't let that overshadow the joyful moments for them because their lives are so much shorter than ours and it means so much more to them, those little moments, than it does to us.
Yes, I
So
agree.
I hope that anybody who has a dog with epilepsy really just considers every day a blessing and to make the best of it that you can and try to put that aside and not center that as their whole personality. Like, oh, they're just a sick dog. Like, no, they are a good dog and they're sick.
Yes.
So that's just something I hope people take away from this.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for that, Jess. That was so precious. And
Thank you.
thank you so much. And I will leave you on that. I mean, I feel like we could just talk here for hours about this and I would just have so many more questions, but maybe I'll have you on here another time so that you can have a part
Yeah,
two. That would
for
be fun.
sure.
But
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me and your
Th-
time. And I love what you're doing. I think it's like I said, when I first started out, there was nothing on this topic. And I feel like not just since I've started, but there's been so many people in the same situation who have brought this to light and have done so many good things for this community of people and for these dogs. And I love what you're doing. I think it's incredible. I support it 100%. And I hope that, you continue to do great things with this and bring more awareness to our pups for sure.
Oh, thank you. That means so much. Honestly, coming from you, that means so much. So thank you so much for those words. And I'm so happy and I'm really honored to have you on here. So thank you for your time. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
You were
Thank
really
you.
you were really special to us. I mean, you still are, but when we were first starting out, you were just so perfect to us and it meant so much.
Thank
So,
you. That means a
thank
lot to
you.
me. That was the whole purpose of my page, was just to
Yes.
just to help other dogs and people go through this and have a
Yes.
better experience. And yeah, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And rest in peace, Riggins and Rosie, and
Yes.
they will
Yes.
continue to shine on this world in ways that we didn't even know were possible. So